All right, we're going to go and start with the second lesson we have today. And I was very excited, very pleased with how you guys did overall on the homework. I have it graded. It's up on the website, so you can see your work there. What I want to do, though, is go ahead and pull out your homework that you sent me. You sent me pictures, or your parents sent me pictures of the homework. Go ahead and pull it out, and I want to give you the answers. We're going to grade that real quick. And so I'm going to give you a second. Pause the video if you need to go find it or pull it out. Make sure you keep your homework because I do want you to be able to go over it so that you know how you did. And so I'm going to read through the answers. That way, you know how you did. You know which ones you got wrong, which ones you got right, or how different things happened there. And so you can see your grade on the website, but this way you'll know exactly what you got right and what you got wrong. And that'll be easier than me sending back information to you guys for each one of these. So if you need to find your homework, go and pause the video now. I'm going to get the answers, and then we'll review. All right, so for the first section here, hopefully you followed the directions. Some of you didn't. You looked at it and then you realized, oh no, I didn't follow the directions. And so you drew arrows or lines or different things like that. Read the directions beforehand, follow the directions. The first four here, you were to name the inverse operation and include the quantity you were not to solve. So, number 1, you divide by 12. Number 2, multiply by 35. Number 3, divide by negative 27. Number 4, multiply by negative 3. Then for 5 through 8, it's the same equations, but now they want you to solve them. Number 5, b equals 2. Number 6, r equals negative 315. Number 7, n equals negative 3. Number 8, x equals negative 18. I'm going to go ahead and read through those answers again in case you missed one and be able to check that. Number 1, divide by 12. Number 2, multiply by 35. Number 3, divide by negative 27. Number 4, multiply by negative 3. Number 5, b equals 2. 6, r equals negative 315. 7, n equals negative 3. And 8, x equals negative 18. Now, some of you, you'll notice at your grades, you're probably a little disappointed. That's because you messed up with your negatives. On numbers 1 through 4, or really all of them, some of you did this. What you did, let's go with number 1. It is 12b equals 24. Well, in order to get that answer, what you have to do is get the b by itself. To get the b by itself, you have to undo the process that's happening here. This is multiplication. In order to undo multiplication, you divide. So you divide both sides by 12. Now, what some of you did was you put together the addition and subtraction portion of this and combined it with the multiplication division portion. You do not divide by a negative 12. This is a positive 12 right here. So you divide by a positive 12. So those become a 1b. That was a terribly shaped b. A 1b. And then you have 24 divided by 12, which comes up to 2. b equals 2. All right, make sure that you understand that. You do not use negatives and positives, you don't change it from a negative to a positive or positive to negative when you're multiplying or dividing. Leave it the negative or positive that it is, and then use it in that way. All right, so that is that section there. So some of you, I was looking over the work, and you got the answers wrong because of your negative signs. You either forgot to move a negative number over, or when you moved it over, you changed it from a positive to a negative, or vice versa. Don't do that. Keep track of it. Don't add the opposite going through here. Now, one of you even said that on numbers 3 and 4 that you add or subtract. Well, that's crazy because we're doing multiplication and division here. You don't add or subtract in these particular parts. All right, so that's the homework. If you have questions or don't understand it, rewatch yesterday's lesson or rewatch today's lesson, the first half of this where I just explained it. And if you still don't understand it, feel free to contact me and I will walk you through it. I don't mind doing that at all. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to keep going with this lesson, page 94. This next part here is something that I've taught you already, but it's a very good reminder. When you see a variable that's there, just any old variable sitting there, we assume that there is a 1 with it. Any variable that's there, it has a 1 with it. So this is technically, even though it's an x, it is a 1x because there's one of them there. That is the coefficient. This is the variable. So we have that we keep in mind. Now, if you see a negative variable, something like that, that doesn't need to throw you off, that doesn't need to scare you, but it's the same thing. There is still a 1 there. So it's a negative 1x that we have. Okay? So look at the bottom of page 94 in your book. If you haven't turned there, I'll give you a moment to do that. Pause the video while you are turning there, getting your book out so that you don't lose track of anything that I say. So if you need to pause the video to turn to page 94, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving. So on the bottom of page 94, it shows you the problem, gives you the equation, negative n equals 37. Negative n equals 37. So understanding this and what we know, that this negative n here actually is a negative 1n equals 37. So if we want to get the n by itself, when the n is negative, when the variable is negative, it is not by itself. So we can't get it, we can't leave it there. It has to be by itself. It has a negative 1 with it. Well, what is taking place right here? Now, I know that you can't actually answer me and I'll be able to hear you, but let's pretend this is like a Dora the Explorer episode or something, and you look in and be like, what is this picture here? So I want you to answer. I want you to interact a little bit here. So what mathematical process is taking place here? All right, that is multiplication. What do you do to undo multiplication? You divide. So you divide both sides by negative 1, divide by negative 1. That becomes simply an n. And then when you divide 37 by 1, by negative 1, if you divide 37 one time, well, you can't. You can't divide it into 1. So it stays 37, but it's a negative 1, so the answer becomes a negative 37. N equals negative 37. Now remember, you should never get these problems wrong. Never, ever, ever should you get these wrong. From here to the rest of the time that we are going over this stuff in algebra, you should be at 100%. Why? Because you can always plug it back in. So here we have this here. All right, we have, if we plug n down here for this portion up here. So let me erase this. If n equals 37, so we have, and don't forget your negative up here. Okay, this is a negative 1n. So negative 1n, negative 1 times, you plug this in here, negative 37, negative 1 times a negative 37 equals a positive 37. You should never get these wrong. This is very basic, very easy stuff that you can get right. So let's look there. They give you that example, example 3, and they walk you through it. Now, once again, we're going to look at the verbal and the audible words that we use when describing math. Don't let this scare you. Don't let this freak you out. This is what some people refer to as mathanese. I don't call it that. I think it's a little silly, but if you want to call it that, that's totally fine. But when I explain something to you, I am using words. Well, example 4 shouldn't scare you because that's just the words written down. All of you guys are able to read, so you should be able to figure this out pretty easily. Look at example 4. It says, write each word phrase as a mathematical expression. Use n for the variable. So it says twice a number. So twice a number, 2n. Letter B, it says 4 times a number. That one's pretty simple, 4n. Letter C, it says 1/3 of a number. 1/3 of a number. Now this can be written one of two different ways. All right, if it says 1/3 of a number, either you have 1/3 times n, or you can have it as n over 3, or n divided by 3. Those will be the same thing there. The next one there, it says the quotient of a number, an 8. Now here's when it comes in. In previous lessons, they've had the list of what the different words mean. So if you don't remember what quotient is, you will need to go back and look at that. For this one, I'm just going to tell you, quotient is the answer to a division problem. The answer to a division problem. So the quotient of a number in 8. So that means a number divided by 8. The answer of a number divided by 8. So that's n divided by 8. Or, as you see there in the book, you can have 1/8 times n. Then, the quotient of 8 and a number. Now, this is different. See, on the first one, they said it was the quotient of a number in 8. So the answer of n divided by 8. Well, with this particular one, what they're saying is that it's the quotient of 8 and a number. So the answer of 8 divided by a number. You see the difference? Look there at your book, page 95, example 4, letters D and E. The first one, quotient of a number and 8, of a number and 8, quotient. Letter E, the quotient of 8 and a number. It's a very subtle difference, but as I mentioned before, it does matter now where the numbers go and where the variables go. If you put them in the wrong spot, they will not be correct. And then let's look at example 5. You may look at it and say, Pastor Rogers, where are we ever going to use this in life? Right here, example 5. This says to use, and what you're going to do is write an algebraic expression for the ages of John and Eileen. If John's age is twice Joyce's and Eileen is 1/4 of Joyce's. Now, the way you figure these out is you, again, take it one step at a time. Don't let this freak you out. You have to, first of all, figure out what is your unknown. What do you not know? That is represented by a variable. So what we don't know is Joyce's age. So the variable equals Joyce's age. The variable there is Joyce's age. Well, do we know anything about John's age? John is twice Joyce's, twice as old as Joyce. So if for John that they have here is twice of Joyce, so 2x. Then we need Eileen's age. Eileen, it says there, is 1/4 of Joyce. Is 1/4 of Joyce. So that means that you could either have x over 4 or 1/4 times x. Okay, so it says that Eileen is 1/4 of Joyce. So you need to take Joyce's age and divide it 4 times. That will give you Eileen's age. Now, that's all it's asking you to do there. It doesn't want you to do anything else. It doesn't want you to go through and solve it. It just wants you to write the algebraic expression. Now, remember that the word equivalent means equal, the same. That'll come up in skill check 2, number 6. You'll need to look at that and try those. All right, that is it for today's lesson. You have numbers 1 through 6, skill check 2, page 95. Make sure you get that work to me. Rewatch the beginning of this episode if you didn't understand some things. And again, if you don't understand things, take the time to rewatch this and then contact me if it's still not clear. There are plenty of helps out there. I don't mind helping you guys with this stuff here. Take your time on these. You need to understand this. This is very important. This is very foundational for what we're going to be going through there. I hope you have a great day. Good luck on your work. Let me know if you need some help.